What you listening to, son?
Speaking of conservatives, we're going to start this off by listening to a liberal, okay? I'm sorry. But probably one of the only base liberals over at MSNBC.
In the summer of 2017, a 43-year-old mother of three started showing up on a now defunct far-right blog to spew conspiracy theories and blast Republicans for not being Trumpy enough. Quote, "Dear spineless elected Republicans, you're on notice!" Exclamation point. "Get on the Trump train or get out of office!" Exclamation point, exclamation point. She also posted conspiracies like the claim that top Hillary Clinton advisor John Podesta murdered a Democratic staff member named Seth Rich, and suggested that many in our government are actively worshipping Satan. And elsewhere in her conspiracy-fueled universe, she declared that thousands of pedophiles and child traffickers have been arrested since Trump was sworn in, and that this global evil was all being funded by the Saudi royals in concert with two Jewish billionaires and the Rothschild family.
JQ. Listen, we can talk all we want about how much we hate liberals, okay? I don't hear many liberals, at least in my personal experience. Maybe y'all have different experiences than me. I don't hear many liberals JQing, okay? Period. Tankies do a little bit. It's just, you know, it's more so like the Western question. You know what I'm saying? Like anything West is just, it's basically the same thing as when fascists talk about George Soros or the Rothschilds.
George Soros and the Rothschild family. Just totally wackadoodle, deranged stuff. Why am I telling you about some random conspiracy nut? Well, although the messages were first written under the pseudonym Elizabeth Camp, apparently her great-grandmother's name, it wouldn't be long until she was posting under her own name, Marjorie Green. Yes,
Ooh.
That Marjorie Green. Marjorie Taylor Green, the North Georgia CrossFit gym owner and mother of three who by 2019 had traded in the anonymity of a keyboard to harass lawmakers in person. That year, Citizen Green was wandering the corridors of Capitol Hill and yelling outside the doors of Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's office, taunting the member of the squad in a since-deleted video that was tracked down by CNN's K-File.
We're going to visit
I remember this.
Alexandria
I remember covering this.
Ocasio-Cortez. Crazy eyes. Crazy eyes. Nutty Cortez. Okay, hang with us, guys.
Crazy eyes, Nutty
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm an American citizen. I pay your salary through the taxes that you collect from me through the IRS because I'm a tax-paying citizen of the United States. So you need to stop being a baby and stop locking your door and come out and face the American citizens that you serve. If you want to be a big girl, you need to get rid of your diaper and come out and be able to talk to the American citizens instead of us having to use a flap, a little flap.
It's kind of like hers. It's kind
Sad.
Childish, abusive, and let's be honest, kind of unhinged. In another video from that time period, Green said that AOC's fellow squad member Ilhan Omar isn't really a member of Congress because she took an oath on the Quran, not on the Bible. Green's words were so nutty, so Islamophobic, and so racist that even the GOP leadership in 2020 could not back her when she decided, of course, to run for Congress from Georgia's deep red 14th district. Republican leader Kevin McCarthy's office said her comments were appalling, and he had no tolerance for them. House Minority Whip Steve Scalise said her disgusting comments don't reflect the values of equality and decency that make our country great. And he backed her primary opponent. As extreme as you think Trump was, as extreme as you think the Republican Party was in 2020, Marjorie Taylor Greene was way, way more extreme. But is that still the case? Sadly, shockingly, far from it. That's the thesis of a new book by New York Times Magazine contributing writer Robert Draper, whose meticulous reporting shows that it's not as if Greene has gravitated towards the GOP in Congress over the past 18 months, as much as the elected Republican Party has shifted towards Greene, who is closer to the Republican base than probably anyone else. Just look at her fundraising record, with a haul of more than $3 million in her first quarter in office, a staggering sum for a freshman. And look at how everyone in the party wants her seal of approval. Robert Draper tweets that earlier this week, Kevin McCarthy was fundraising with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she'll be on the campaign trail with Carrie Lake and J.D. Vance later this month. In fact, if Republicans take back the House, she expects to be back on plum committees, having been stripped by Democrats of her committee assignments for extremist behavior and often anti-Semitic rhetoric. But
I'm going to be quite frank with y'all. I kind of have a prediction. Maybe this has already come to pass and I just haven't heard it yet. Maybe it hasn't yet, but I think y'all might agree that it might. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to try to run for president. People like Trump. People like Ron DeSantis. But there's still always something about these two that the conservative base has some kind of a problem with or something. At least now. They might still be loyal to Trump more so than Ron DeSantis. But even then, there's still those moments of like, you know, basically, like I almost feel like with some of the things I've seen, at least as far as social media goes, that they want someone newer, fresher, younger, who can carry on the Trumpian torch for a longer period of time than Trump could, because he's old as fuck now, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene, after all of her dumb fucking bullshit, still gets a fuck ton of support. Vigilante, I love you, man, but you know what I just noticed? Why is it that us Marxists are always the ones who always have to preface sentences with, well, as a Marxist? You ever notice that?
she also expects a lot more power and influence, or else. I think that to be the best Speaker of the House and to please the base, McCarthy's going to give me a lot of power and a lot of leeway, she predicted in a flat, unemotional voice, Robert Draper writes. And if he doesn't, they're going to be very unhappy about it. I think that's the best way to read that. I just think that's reality.
Oh.
But forget the bright lights of the Oversight Committee's hearing room as it carries out baseless investigations. Is there anything more high profile for a Trump acolyte than standing at his side as his vice president? Quote, I would be honored, she told Draper, revealing that Trump is apparently considering her as a running mate in 2024, although also acknowledging that GOP advisors would urge Trump to think twice about a candidate as divisive as herself. I think the last person that the RNC or the National Party wants is me as his running mate. You think? Here's the thing. Greene has become a laughingstock for liberals and leftists, which is understandable because she says and does a lot of dumb and laughable things. Just this past week, the Georgia conservative tried to take a stand for the Confederacy by posting photos of herself on Trump's social media site platform at the Wilder Brigade Monument in Georgia. One teeny tiny problem with that, the Wilder Brigade was an infantry unit in the Union Army. You know, the patriots who won the Civil War, not the traitors who lost it, and who Greene apparently wanted to honor. So sure, on the one hand, it was just the latest embarrassment of many for the Jewish space lasering, gazpacho policing mini-Trump from Georgia. But it's a mistake to just laugh at her or dismiss her. This is a woman who commands huge influence on the American right, as Robert Draper notes in his new book, and who says outrageous, inflammatory, insightful things like this just the other week.
Democrats want Republicans dead, and they've already started the killings.
You cannot ignore that kind of dangerous and, yes, fascistic rhetoric. What genocide scholars often...
Thank you! Fuck! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Oh my god. See, this is why I love Mehdi Hasan so much, okay? It's fucking MSNBC. Okay? You don't expect the word fascistic to drop on that network, and yet here he is, with balls to call it out for what the fuck it is. Thank you. Shit.
An accusation in the mirror. Democrats are killing Republicans? That's not a fringe voice on the right. Oh, no. In today's GOP, Marjorie Taylor Greene is the main attraction.
32 House Republicans have co-sponsored legislation to finally tackle one of the biggest problems facing the United States today, and that is, of course, using government funds to hire strippers for children. I wish I was making that up, but that is exactly one of the things that this Stop the Sexualization of Children Act will now prohibit.
Wow. Where were these strippers at when I was a kid?
Because these 32 Republicans, led by Representative Mike Johnson from Louisiana, seem to think that the government across the country is just paying for strippers for kids everywhere. You know, libraries, hospitals, schools, those are all places they've listed where things like this are likely to happen. But what's...
They just make shit up. Like, I don't, like... This is going to end up being one of the crux points that I make in this particular segment. They just make shit up. They just make it up and just pass it. Just like with the furry shit. I'm about to be uploading part 3 to the furries, litter boxes, and school bathrooms fucking trilogy. They just make shit up. You know, oh, this is happening. And then their base is like, that's happening. And then, like, we got to do something about this. That's definitely happening. They're like, yeah, we got to do something about this. That's definitely happening. But it's definitely not.
This is an expansion of Florida's Don't Say Gay legislation, but Republicans are trying to do it, of course, on the federal level right before the midterms so that they can use it to galvanize their bigoted and very stupid base. Let me read this. The Stop Sexualization of Children Act, the bill would cut federal funding to libraries, school districts, hospitals, government entities, or other organizations for, quote, hosting or promoting any program, event, or literature involving sexually oriented material. Johnson's...
Okay. All right. I want to bring something up real quick. What % of Republicans are religious? Okay? Roughly 6 in 10 Americans report that religion is very important in their lives. About 1 in 4 say that religion is fairly important, while less than 1 in 5 say that religion is not very important. Okay? 66% of Republicans report that religion is very important, the highest of any of these 3 political groups. Okay? 66%. How many Republicans in USA? How many registered Republicans? There we go. This doesn't help me at all. Roughly 55 million registered Republicans. Okay. 66 times 55 million is 36,300,000. Okay? So 66% of the Republican base say that religion is very important to them. Okay? So we're talking less than 37 million people in this country think that religion is very important, okay? The reason why I bring this up is because if you look at the Bible, okay? Thank you, evilbible.com. And we just go to rape in the Bible category, okay? Look at how many fucking verses are cited in this motherfucking book, okay? And that's not even it. There's also murder in the Bible, slavery, ritual human sacrifice, how God is not pro-life, all sorts of shit, okay? Now, why do I bring this up?
Hosting or promoting any program, event, or literature involving sexually oriented material.
The Bible, filled with it. Filled with it. There's so much penetration happening in the Bible. I'm surprised it's not dripping with jizz. So much rape, bro. Trigger warning, sorry. There's so much. There's so much. So much. So much. But sexual material, hey, whoa. We gotta protect the children, guys. We gotta protect the children, okay? Okay. But with Christian family values.
Johnson's bill also bans, quote, any lewd or lascivious depiction or description of human genitals, Basic introduction on body parts is often a part of lessons aimed at helping victims of child sex abuse speak out and get help. Instead of defining what exactly is prohibited by the bill's vague descriptions, it allows parents to sue if they believe a government entity violated the law. Johnson said that this bill would stop, quote, events where adults dance salaciously or strip for children, without citing any examples of recipients of federal money that have hired strippers to perform for kids. This is a piece of legislation searching for a problem that doesn't exist.
Do y'all remember just like literally the last segment that we did where Christopher fucking Rufo was talking about, no, drag queens, strippers. We gotta call them that because it centers the conversation around sexualization of children rather than the LGBTQIA+, right?
What I'm looking at, and it's just kind of an ongoing series, I just started it, is to take that same system of reporting, that same style of reporting as I did with critical race theory, but now taking a look at gender ideology. What's happening right now is parents are feeling that. They're feeling the, oof, this is kind of weird. I'm kind of uncomfortable with this, but I'm scared to speak out. And so what we have to do is we have to give them the kind of media narrative, kind of justification or validation or substantiation of their concerns to say, hey, this is the kind of thing they're teaching in schools. And then we have to give them the language where they can speak about it with confidence, they can speak about it directly, and they can speak about it with the requisite level of aggressiveness that it's going to take to say, hey, wait a minute, we have to stop this.
Yeah, he's basically giving people a script to repeat. And say what you want about Chris Rufo, like, for instance, that he's a fear-mongering troll who looks like what would happen if someone made the recipe for Ryan Gosling but forgot to add the hotness.
Right.
It's called the Stop the Sexualization of Children Act. So what these Republicans are hoping to do is right before the midterms, get all the Democrats to vote against stopping the sexualization of children. I mean, on paper, that looks pretty bad, right? You don't want to vote against stopping the sexualization of children. I mean, that's going to really hurt in campaign ads. And I'm not kidding. I'm not being facetious there. The Republicans did kind of back the Democrats into a corner here. It's like sponsoring legislation called the Puppies Are Very Cute and We Shouldn't Kill Them Act, and then having the other party vote against it.
Now, there's one problem with this take that I have, okay? Vote against it. Just vote against it. Whatever. They're gonna say it one way or another, either way. Here's what you do when those attack ads come out. You get an attack ad saying, but this is the sexualization, Stop the Sexualization of Children Act. This is what the details of it say. That's why we voted against it. That's why they are monstrous tyrants. Vote for me. It's really that simple. It's really that fucking simple, okay? Like, can we stop overthinking this, please?
But this legislation is dangerous. Teachers could be fired for having a picture of their spouse, especially if it's a same-sex couple, on their desk at school. Mm-hmm. This is even deeper and further than Florida's Don't Say Gay legislation. That's what we're seeing happening here now on the federal level. And of course, this thing has no chance whatsoever of actually becoming a law here in the United States. Democrats control the House. It's not going to make it. May not even make it to the House floor. And let's hope that's the case, because then that would take away, you know, the big talking point Republicans could have that, hey, look what Democrats just voted down.
Right.
But this bill is a dangerous, slippery slope. It's not even a slippery slope. It is the end of the slope, where people could be thrown in jail, people could be fired for just being who they are.
Big problem. Big problem.
The good news of the gospel.
Oh, nothing's funny. I'm having a great time. I'm very happy today.
Why are you so happy?
Because it's a good day. We're celebrating love. And I woke up this morning. It's a great day.
Where's the celebration of love at?
In my heart.
In your heart?
Yeah.
These people, including you, if you reject Christ,
Yeah.
are going to be sent to hell.
Oh no.
Hi, it's Alonzo Bowden with another Rebel HQ TYT video. Oh, Jesus, the Christians are at it again.
Just wow, bro. No lives.
After repent, you must repent.
You know who you are.
You have to get to the side. You can't block the walkway.
Groomers. Shame on
Groomers! Woo! You're a groomer and you're going to hell. Enjoy hell, baby.
You're pigs. Shame on you. You need to
Enjoy hell. Enjoy hell.
For my children that you're mentally ill gay.
Enjoy hell.
Why do you need my children to validate your sexual deviancy? You'll never be a woman. You'll never be a woman. You'll never be a woman. Cut off your all you want. You'll never be a woman. You'll never be a woman.
They're really concerned about groomers, guys.
I want to talk about a Republican named Randy Kaufman. This is an individual from Arizona who was running to represent the governing board of the Maricopa County Community College District. Now, he had to suspend his campaign for reasons I will tell you about in a moment, but let's talk about who he was as a candidate. This is an individual who has consistently been a strong Trump supporter. He's an election denier. On top of that, he is an anti-vaxxer, an anti-masker, and as HuffPost explains, in a Facebook post from May, Kaufman said he wanted our children protected from the progressive left.
You see that? See that right there? You see that?
As Law and Crime reports, according to a probable cause affidavit obtained by Law and Crime, an officer with the Maricopa County College's police department at approximately 4:29 p.m. on October 4th was performing his normal patrol routine when he observed a maroon Ford F-150 pickup truck just inside of a parking lot at Rio Salado College in Surprise, Arizona. The officer said he noticed that the vehicle was parked across 3 spaces and there was a shade screen across the inside of the front windshield, which he noted as unusual. Approximately 10 minutes later, the officer went to take a closer look at the vehicle and noticed that it was still running. He allegedly approached the vehicle from the front passenger door and observed Kaufman in the driver's seat, noting that he appeared to be using one of his hands to hold up a cell phone. Quote, I immediately became alarmed as I saw Kaufman had his pants down mid-thigh and was exposed, showing his fully erect nude penis. Kaufman. I can't get through this next line. Kaufman was manipulating his genitals.
You can do it, Mike. You can do it. You can do it.
Kaufman.
Oh my God.
Kaufman was manipulating his genitals in a Kaufman was manipulating his genitals in a masturbatory manner, the affidavit states.
I'm gonna come.
I'm literally crying. I'm just imagining the police officer seeing that face and describing, well, he was manipulating his genitals in a masturbatory manner. It's a little bit too much for me to take. Now, this would be a funny story if that was
I thought these chuds strictly opposed genital manipulation. Wow. It's quite interesting.
An excerpt from the affidavit shows a portion of the alleged conversation. Officer says, I saw you had your phone out while you were doing what you were. What was going on with the phone? Kaufman replies saying, I was watching porn. Officer, what kind of porn were you watching? Kaufman responded saying, interracial porn. Officer says, when you look around here, what do you see? Kaufman says, the child center, but I didn't notice it until you came up and I got out of my truck. Are you going to put that in a report? Officer, don't you see how alarming that is? That there are children nearby, people passing on bikes and in cars where they can look and see what you are doing? Kaufman says, quote, I fucked up. Yeah, you did. To put it lightly.
Yeah, you fucked up. You fucked up, son. But groomers, guys, groomers, these transcendences,
They're the biggest of the problems is pre-scores.
Why did I pull out the Schmiegel, bro? Groomers, though, guys. Groomers. Yeah.
39% of Republicans are already saying they're not going to accept the election results from this year's midterms if their candidate loses. Basically, if...
Mind you, again, think back to when we did the calculations. 66% of 55 million registered Republicans is less than 37 million. So 40% would be, I don't know, just roughly without calculating it, shed off another 10 million off of that, maybe, give or take, somewhere between 20 and 25 million Republicans. Nope. I'm not gonna accept it. I'm not gonna accept the election results. I'm not gonna do it. I don't even know what that voice is, but that's the Republican voice now, I guess. That's in the Grey Craftian lore now. Republican voice.
40% of Republicans are already saying, yeah, it's because voter fraud. It's because Democrats somehow stole the election. An election that, by the way, we haven't actually started yet, right? The election itself is not taking place. Mm-hmm. But 40% of Republicans are already saying this thing that hasn't happened yet is probably going to be influenced by something that we believe is real, even though statistics show us isn't real. Mm. So a thing that hasn't happened is going to be influenced by things that aren't real, but only if Republicans don't get the results that they want. 40% are already like in that mindset of, yep, it's totally going to be stolen, unless my person wins, then it's totally legit.
Right.
That's not the shocking part of this poll. To me, the shocking part is this. 26% of Democrats will say the same if their party doesn't win, according to a new Axios Ipsos poll. Like, totally understandable that Republicans are all embracing voter fraud. We know it's not real. We know there's no evidence to suggest that it's happening, but Trump has been saying it. Other Republicans have been saying it. Hell, they've been saying it during the primaries. So yes, it makes sense that these idiot Republican voters would also believe that.
But do we remember the 2020 election? Do we remember like all those reports that came out where it was like anytime voter fraud happened, it was people voting for Trump more than once. Every single time that actual legitimate voter fraud was found, it was people voting for Trump like twice or 3 times, or someone voting on behalf of like their dead grandmother. So like to a certain extent, I understand why Democrats would be like, no, like they're going to try to steal the election. They've already, they already through extra electoral means have been trying to set up the groundwork for stealing the next election. Period.com. We went over this with in my video, the GOP interference plot. In there, they're going to challenge poll workers that aren't conservatives just to do it. Just to do it. Just to do it. And they have lawyers on the ready, on call, ready to make sure that they can just get away with it. Shut the fuck up!
But for a quarter of the Democratic Party to be saying the same thing, like what the hell is wrong with you people? Like that's just dumb. It's not going to be voter fraud. It's not going to be election theft. Yes. Are there problems? Absolutely. Especially clearly in the states controlled by Republicans where they've passed these oppressive, voting restrictions. But that's not technically theft, right? It is intentional suppression. They know exactly what they're trying to do, but you can't call it theft because it is a perfectly legal way to do it.
But it is theft. Listen, if I ask to borrow your if I ask to borrow your Xbox controller, okay, and like 2 years roll by and I haven't given it back, and every single time you've asked for me to give it back, I don't give it back, it's theft at that point, okay? Technically, I didn't steal it, but I have effectively stolen it.
With the Russia and the Ukraine conflict, what's your...
my opinion, you know, I grew up in 40 years, you know, under the Russian thing. And I love Putin. I love Putin. Putin is making the right, you know. What the American people is built over there, he wants to clean them out, you know.
I really hope she's saying pudding. She's not saying pudding. She's saying poutine. Wait, poutine? Poutine. Hold up. That's a thing, right? She's talking about this, right? Is she talking about, or is she talking about Putin?
You want to get rid of Americans? Clean them out?
Clean them out, all the biochemical place, everything, and the nuclear thing. Yeah.
We'll have to talk more about this because
he's a good president, you know. Number 2 after President 1. Number 2. I love him.
So, thank you, love you too. What's really sort of fascinating about this is, I mean, do you remember, like, nobody's talking about this anymore, but for a long time there was like I think like a 3-week period of time where there are you know.
That was the justification for the invasion.
That was the justification for the invasion. There are
I agree. Poutine, great. Fries with great. I actually have never had poutine before, but if that's what it is, fries with grape, that does sound pretty fucking good, actually. Oh!
So let's talk about the facts. The fact is...
Oh my god, whoa, what the fuck was that glitch? Oh, did you see that? That was some... Ugh.
So let's talk about the facts. The fact is, the rates of violent crime are higher in Oklahoma under your watch than in New York and California. That's a fact.
Well, we'll have that fact checked by the Frontier Superintendent.
It's also a fact that medical
marijuana...
Hang on,
Oklahomans, do you believe we have higher crime than New York or California? That's what she just said.
Safety and security is my top priority, and it will be as governor.
The look on his face there was sheer panic because he didn't know how to respond. He just had to say, "That's not true. Do you believe that?" Well, I mean, whether or not people believe it, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not true. And unfortunately for him, it is true. What she said was absolutely factual. As Yahoo News reports, John Roman, a senior fellow at NORC at the University of Chicago, told Yahoo News that Hoffmeister's numbers were accurate. Citing FBI data, Roman said that Oklahoma is 12th in violence per 100,000 residents and 7th in property crime per 100,000 residents. California is similar but lower for each, and New York is much safer and below the national averages in both property and violence. Overall, putting violent crime rates and property rates together, Oklahoma is on the list of the top 10 highest crime rate states.
Damn. That's not good. That's not good.
It's not about whether you like Alex Jones. It is completely irrelevant. What is relevant is
What was that voice crack? Completely irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. Oh, I want to hear that again. I love making fun of him.
It's not about whether you like Alex Jones. It is completely irrelevant.
Completely irrelevant. He sounds like, hold up. I gotta find that video. I gotta find that one video of that one kid.
But I woke up every day. Oh, shit.
It's Charlie Kirk, guys. It's Charlie Kirk.
It is completely irrelevant. What is relevant is, do you think that the law-industrial complex, in collusion with the media, can work in irrelevant? What is relevant is, do you think that the law-industrial complex, in collusion with the media, can work in harmony to completely obliterate somebody financially for saying something wrong and then therefore apologize.
They could just make shit up. Again, they could just make shit up. You know, the law industrial complex. What? Are you fucking kidding me, bro? What did you just... What is this? Oh my god, no! Oh no!
Not only are we going to New Hampshire, Tom Harkin, we're going to South Carolina and Oklahoma and Arizona and North Dakota and New Mexico. And we're going to California and Texas and New York. And we're going to South Dakota and Oregon and Washington and Michigan. And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House. Yeah!
Yeah! I think did he coin this law industrial media complex?
I've never heard the LIMP.
It's like the law industrial medical media plumbing. Like you could just include everything into complex.
This is why Charlie Kirk was speaking out on behalf of Amber Heard in the Johnny Depp trial, right? He's just very much against the idea of defamation as a concept.
That's actually a really good point. Like all these people were absolutely cheering on Johnny Depp, saying, like, take everything from that B word.
Yeah, I mean they used it.
That B word? What ass B word? Selling hot hemp? Order! Order in this Bobert courtroom! Order! Order! I do say, order in the Bobert courtroom, yes. Order in my Second Amendment failing restaurant, order. Order in the my husband exposes himself to underage people courtroom.
What is going on with Lauren Boebert, you might be asking? With Boebert going down in the polls about neck and neck with her opponent Adam Frisch, she seems to be losing her mind more and more the further her numbers drop. A Center Street PAC poll on October 13th showed Boebert had gone down another 5%, leaving her at 40%, as compared to Adam Frisch, who's sitting at 45%. Now, as Boebert's numbers go down, her sanity seems to drop with it, which creates a cycle wherein her polling numbers then go down even more. And this can be evident as seen by the videos. The first video we saw where she was getting laughed at, and this next video we're going to look at where she's getting booed on stage.
But you did support her, correct?
You know what?
Always.
This debate is not about
I believe
me,
that it's relevant
Congresswoman
because I think that
Boebert.
it's fair to everyone here
We
to
are
understand
going to go
that Club
ahead.
20 knowingly chose you to moderate this debate. I don't think it's fair to the audience or to you.
Congresswoman Boebert, this is not about me tonight. This is about you and your opponent. I am here to ask to be the traffic cop.
Not only this, but she seems to be confused as to who she's even debating. She keeps bringing up Nancy Pelosi when Nancy Pelosi is not in the room and not the person she's debating. And
is Nancy Pelosi in the room with you right now? Can you point to us where this Nancy Pelosi is? Where did Nancy Pelosi touch you?
Nancy Pelosi is running a con game in Washington. Nancy's con game works like fire Nancy Pelosi.
I'm Adam Frisch. I'm not Nancy Pelosi.
Nancy Pelosi, Pelosi's con game, Nancy's con game. More inflation, more borrowing from China, and Pelosi knows it. Pelosi's con game.
I'm Adam Frisch. I'm not Nancy Pelosi.
Their Pelosi con game in Aspen. And just like Pelosi, not time to help Nancy Pelosi. It is time to fire Nancy Pelosi. This election, say no to liberal extremists.
I'm Adam Frisch. I'm not Nancy Pelosi.
Here's the deal. In Washington, D.C., the problem is there's not enough of me.
I'd argue that one is already too many of Lauren Boebert. In addition to all of this, Lauren Boebert is just saying the quiet part out loud now about how she thinks that the church should run the government. which
Oh,
is
yep.
exactly the opposite
Which is
of
what
what
she said
America is
before.
supposed to be. We're supposed to have freedom of religion. We're supposed to have separation of church and state. But she has a bone to pick with the separation of church and state, and she talks about it in this next clip here.
The church is supposed to direct
Oh, no, this
the
is the clip.
government.
What?
The government is
Wait a
not
second. Which church? There's like 1,000.
supposed to direct the church. That is not how our founding fathers intended it. And I'm tired of this separation of church and state junk that's not in the Constitution. It was in a stinking letter, and it means nothing like what they say it does.
Ooh. Now, which church is supposed to direct the government?
The Christian one, obviously.
So about a week or so ago, I talked about a Keating research poll conducted between September 29th and October 2nd, which found that Lauren Boebert is in danger of losing her re-election bid because this poll found a 5-point swing for her Democratic opponent, meaning that she was statistically tied with Adam Frisch. She was sitting at 47% to his 45%, with 7% of voters undecided. Now, at the time, I poured cold water over everyone's hopes and dreams, even noting that the poll was good news, specifically because this one poll could be an outlier. We need a second poll to confirm that she is indeed statistically tied with her Democratic opponent. Well, we have a second poll now, and that poll that we saw from Keating Research was indeed not an outlier, because a Center Street PAC poll found that Adam Frisch is officially leading Lauren Boebert by 5 points, with 45% to her 40%. So it's official. She is in danger of losing her re-election bid. Now notice that there's still a high amount of undecided voters in this race that could make or break everything. But Lauren Boebert, I've got to admit it, even as cynical as I am, she could lose. Now, in that same video where I talked about this, I cited a number of reasons, aside from the poll possibly being an outlier, as to why she has an advantage here. And I still stand by a lot of those reasons, but let me tell you what I said in particular. Even though there's a chance, even though this poll is a good sign, even though it's possible that Frisch defeats Bobo, it's very, very unlikely, unfortunately. And let me tell you why. First and foremost, Colorado's 3rd district heavily favors Republicans usually, and I don't think that Bobo is as much of a deviation from the norm, considering how insane and extremist other Republicans are. Sure, she's out there. Sure, she's worse. But is she bad enough to get them to either vote for a Democrat or not vote? I don't necessarily think so if history is a guide. Also, 538 gives Bobo a 98% chance of winning. So there is a chance, to cite Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber, but it is a very small chance. Now, another thing working in her favor is money. According to Open Secrets, she's raised more than $5 million this cycle and has more than $2 million in her campaign coffers, whereas Adam Frisch, by comparison, has only raised $1.1 million. And I say only, knowing that $1 million is a huge amount, but compared to Lauren Boebert's $5 million, and politically speaking, this isn't necessarily that much, considering he now only has under $600,000 in his campaign war chest. Also, most of his campaign is financed by himself, and he has almost no grassroots support, which means that he's not doing enough to register new voters and create enthusiasm, and he's instead just relying on disaffected independents, which, as we've learned throughout the years, is not a very good strategy for Democrats. So all of those things are still true, but the situation has gotten more dire for Lauren Boebert. Now, what she has working for her is a lot of money in her campaign coffers. The problem is that if it is the case that she's turning off a lot of undecided and independent voters because she's too bombastic and too extremist, which didn't seem likely at first, but perhaps that is the case. The problem is if she starts running ads and blasting her message everywhere, that could backfire if voters are just getting sick of hearing from Lauren Boebert. So, look, I think that the polls, they're not necessarily foolproof, right? It's not like this is a foregone conclusion that she's going to lose, but I went from thinking it's very unlikely to thinking now there's a 50-50 chance that she actually does lose. Although,
let's just keep the hopium going. Let's just keep the hopium going.
Recently leaked text messages that have been obtained by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution show that defeated Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler was one Republican who faced extreme pressure by individuals like Marjorie Taylor Greene to essentially do what Trump wanted her to do and help him overturn the results of the 2020 election. Also, mind you, if you don't remember, Kelly Loeffler, before losing to radical liberal Raphael Warnock, she was vehemently anti-vaccine mandate, anti-mask mandate, the whole 9 yards. And she was found out to do insider trading during the beginning of the pandemic. So, yeah. A month before the conservative firebrand was sworn into the US House, Greene asked Loeffler to talk about a plan we are developing on how to vote on the Electoral College votes on January 6th. I need a senator, Greene wrote on December 2nd, 2020, and I think this is a major help for you to win on the 5th. Okay, so let's pause for a second. Marjorie Greene is just some low-level congresswoman and an embarrassment to the American people. Why isn't she being prosecuted? She's clearly involved in this. There are communications and correspondences that prove it. She should be prosecuted. I mean, she is an awful person, but let me continue, there's more. Less than 3 weeks later, on December 20th, Greene invited Loeffler to a White House meeting the following day that she said was organized with Trump, his legal team, and members of Congress, who are going to challenge the Electoral College votes for Joe Biden in several key states on January 6th. Seems like Marjorie Greene knew a lot about what was gonna happen on January 6th before it happened, so. Yep. Maybe look into that. Loeffler was also contacted by Jody Heiss, who told her that he'd attended the meeting and planned to object to the election certification. And so he wrote this: Kelly, I wanted to give you the heads up that I will be contesting the electoral votes on January 6th. Wanted to check with you about doing the same in the Senate. I know you've had people ask. I was wondering if you have made a decision. Right? So there's just all this pressure coming from members of Congress for Loeffler to do the right thing. In reality, do the wrong thing and try to steal the election from its rightful winner, Joe Biden.
Yeah, so there's two different parts of the story. First is Loeffler, both her hypocrisy and how telling her actions are. So before her election, Marjorie Taylor Greene and the others are saying, man, if you decide that you're gonna join our coup and make sure that you impose Trump as dictator, we'll help you with your election. And remember, our base is filled with a bunch of morons who want to overthrow the American government. So you want to help Kelly? And she seems reluctant. You could see it in the correspondence, but ultimately she says, yes, I want vengeful Republicans who hate America to vote for me. So I will join your coup, right? Then the coup happens. Remember, Loeffler's in the building. And now this is an attack against the elites. And Loeffler don't like that, and she's already lost. So she's like, oh, now that my own personal interests are not involved, or if they've flipped in a sense, I've already lost the election, and now I felt slightly in danger by you lunatics. And then she goes, no, I'm certifying the election.
1000%. I mean, I don't want anyone to get this idea that she was this Republican senator with a backbone. No, these Republican senators and Republican members of the House were constantly thinking about their own political goals, their own political aspirations. They didn't care at all about protecting and maintaining our democratic process or whatever's left of it, right? All they cared about is, how is this going to either benefit me or potentially hurt me? And it is disgusting that even after the riots that took place, you had Republicans in Congress still contest the Electoral College votes.
My question is, will you accept the results of your election in November?
I'm going to win the election and I will accept that result.
If you lose, will you accept that?
I'm going to win the election and I will accept that result, because the people of Arizona will never support and vote for a coward like Katie Hobbs, who won't show up on a debate stage. She's singing.
You know, I said this regarding the White House press secretary Kayleigh McEnany's comments in the summer of 2020,
Mm.
which was, you know, the president can't decide, shouldn't be able to decide whether to accept the result solely on the basis of whether they have won or they have lost. But that's exactly what Trump and Kayleigh McEnany were setting Trump up to do in that summer of 2020. It was, I will accept it if I win, but it's going to be fraud if I lose. And Trump never said it in that language. Kayleigh never said it in that language. But they made it clear. There's all these ways Democrats are going to try to steal it. And if indeed we lose by a little bit, it will be because Democrats have stolen it. But obviously, if we win, if we are reelected by the will of the people, which of course we will be, then we will accept that. And at the time I said, this isn't how democracy is supposed to work. And it is happening again. Republicans will accept election results when they win. And if they don't win, they will say that it was fraudulent or it was stolen or it was rigged or whatever the case may be.
Herschel Walker just won the debate last night. Was magnificent. Herschel Walker just won the debate last night. Was magnificent.
Delusional.
Steve Bannon has been working with other Republican operatives to craft a plan to dramatically reshape the federal government here in the United States by using state legislatures to convene a constitutional convention where they can essentially just rewrite the Constitution any way they want. And of course, having the state legislatures call a constitutional convention is one of two ways that you can add amendments to the Constitution. We certainly should be doing that about certain issues like campaign finance, you know, overturning Citizens United and McCutcheon,
right.
Perhaps even Medicare for all. There's all sorts of things we could do to use this for the good of the people. But that's not what Steve Bannon and his good friends Mark Meckler and Rick Santorum are trying to do. They want to call a constitutional convention, according to The Guardian. The convention would promote policies that would limit the size and scope of the federal government, set ceilings on or even abolish taxes, free corporations from regulations, and impose restrictions on government action in areas such as abortion, guns, and immigration. Jesus. And Meckler, who was a founder of the Tea Party movement, who now runs the Convention of States Action, which is trying to make all this happen, he said, quote, "We need to say constitutionally, no, the federal government cannot be involved in education or healthcare or energy or the environment."
Fucking psychotic.
So no rules, no regulations. The government is basically just there to collect taxes. Oh, nope, maybe we're just going to abolish taxes. So what the hell would be the role of the federal government?
Right.
Start wars overseas? That'd be about the only thing they'd be able to do at this point. You can't regulate energy. You can't protect the environment. You can't get involved in healthcare. You're no longer in charge of education. These people are insane. They're absolutely batshit crazy insane trying to remake the entirety of the United States from the top down. And the scary part is here, folks, they may have the numbers to do it. Republicans have been steadily, for many decades now, taking control of state after state after state. Republican-controlled legislatures, Republican governors, even in states that are typically blue states, you still have Republican control inside the state. Some of that has to do with gerrymandering. Some of it has to do with just Republicans being better at messaging than Democrats. But they would need 2/3 of the states. They've got over half of them now in order to make this happen. And if they go that route, if they had the numbers to do this, there is literally nothing we could do to stop it. Okay, that's the scariest part, not just that they want to strangle the federal government and kill it and use their Republican-controlled states to enact whatever insane authoritarian laws they want to do, but we would be powerless to stop it.
Again, I'm going to say it again. The Republican Party needs to be dismantled. They need to be removed from all forms, all levels, all degrees of political authority and or influence. Period. They're too dangerous to be left as an official political party. And the only way that I mean, not just us on the left having a shot at making this country better, but having the groundwork in place to have the opportunity, a slight chance at doing anything even milquetoast compared to what the left wants to do for the American people. The only way, the only solution is to make sure that the Republicans are no longer a party. They have unearned that privilege. They need kicked out. They need kicked out. If not permanently, temporarily. And by temporarily, I would argue a fair amount of time would be one presidential cycle, one presidential term. 4 years. 4 years. You don't get a say. You don't get a say. Period. You keep on proving yourselves over and over and over again to literally be tyrants and terrorists. We can't have you drafting bills. We can't have you passing bills. We can't have you filibustering and blocking bills. We can't have you talking about bills.
We here at the Titus Podcast are stunned at the midterm so far that this clown car of treasonous morons is close at all. It just shows the level of ignorant, insane, and illiterate imbeciles that infest our country. The ones that waited in Dealey Plaza for JFK Jr. to come back from the dead. They vote for these batshit, crack-brain, inept, half-baked dipshits to own the libs. I mean, really? I mean, the guys that want to kill Social Security and Medicare, you think they're just going to cut it for Democrats? If you vote in the people that tried to end democracy, do you think they're going to let you keep yours? Why don't we ask Russia, Cuba, and Florida how it's going? Yeah, in Florida, people, they are arresting people for voting. You think they're going to stop when they get to you because you got a red hat? Why don't we ask Germany and Japan in 1935 what they thought? I mean, what if there were no parties, Democrat or Republican? What if it wasn't shirts and skins? What if it was based on performance and what they did for you and your tax dollars? Why don't we look at the last 6 years? Who of the two parties put points on the board? Well, here's what happened under Republicans. They passed a tax law that gave billions to already rich people. After 3 years, your normal people's tiny tax break went away. Billionaires get to keep theirs. They ran up the deficit $7 trillion. Trump ran up the trade deficit $916 billion. It was a 40% increase. Then he put tariffs on Chinese goods, which added $74 billion to the prices Americans paid. And that pissed off China, and they stopped buying our farmers' crops, and the Republicans put our farmers on welfare, $26 million worth. And the GOP talked about health care constantly. Remember how the Republican plan was coming in 2 weeks, and it was coming in 2 weeks for 4 years. Remember Infrastructure Week? That also lasted 4 years. We finally got infrastructure, but this guy passed it, and these dipshits voted against it. Trump was impeached twice, once for blackmailing Ukraine with weapons and the other time for trying to overthrow our government. And these lunatics backed him up. And they tried to end democracy. These half-baked, cockeyed morons are dangerous. And if they were all Democrats, I would vote for Ronald Reagan's rotting corpse, which, by the way, is still showing up to work more than Marco fucking Rubio. So the group that ran the country from 2017 through 2020, that called a pandemic a hoax, that killed 1 million Americans, 40% more dead than had they just done something, anything. They added 40% to the trade deficit, costing us all billions. They did shit on healthcare, infrastructure. They took immigrant children from their parents. They took voting rights, women's rights, LGBTQEIEIO rights. They put people on the Supreme Court who'd never tried a single case. They lost 6 million jobs. While Trump made $2 billion in the White House, where he gave his kids jobs, and his kids made $640 million while he golfed 300 days and made us a worldwide laughingstock, and I'm not even scratching the fucking surface. Kevin Mumbles McCarthy has said, they're going to fix things, America first. Yet it was just 2 years ago when they were in charge and the store shelves were empty and we were locked in our homes and had refrigerator trucks full of dead people. And now they're going to fix it? Fix what? Democrats created 5.7% growth, 3.5% unemployment, 10 million jobs. They united NATO, stood up against Putin. And the last guy licked Vlad's taint. Dems passed the Inflation Reduction Act, the American Rescue Plan, first gun laws in 30 years, the CHIPS Law, the Packed Burn Pits Act, and the Asian Hate Crimes Law. He updated and reauthorized the Violence Against Women Act. Stores are full. We're back to work. The deficit is down 1.3 trillion, and the stock market hit 69 records since Biden became president. And he's only been doing it 19 months. Republicans have the balls to call him senile while they voted against all of these accomplishments that turned us around so fast, that grew the economy so fast that we have inflation, which is worldwide.
I'm just trying to DoorDash shit. And literally, those like 2 hours I did over like what all the fucked up shit that the GOP's been doing recently, he just encapsulated the past like 5 years. Oh my God.
That grew the economy so fast that we have inflation, which is worldwide. But we're not even in the top 10, people. Biden is standing up to Saudi and Russia. The dollar is the strongest it's been in 20 years. Fix what, Mumbles? Republicans always break America. W, Nixon, Trump. They always fuck it up. And that's not opinion, by the way. That's by the numbers. And yet you Republicans are still considering voting for this carnival of crazy and treason. What is wrong with you? Republicans have put 0 points on the board. 0 points. And they scare you about immigrants and trans and kids. They lie about everything and vote against almost everything that would make your life better. Minimum wage, cheap medication, tax breaks, bringing jobs back to the U.S. They want to stop the teaching of actual history. They ban books. They have no points on the board and no plan to put points on the board. The racism is insane. And the GOP's kind of feeling like Germany in 1933. They will end democracy.
Thank you.
And the GOP's kind of feeling like Germany in 1933. They will end democracy. They came out and said they will. They actually already tried on January 6th. So do me a favor. If after all of this, you can still vote for these treasonous, anti-American, corrupt criminals who have shown repeatedly that they care about nothing but power, money, and taking your freedom. If you can back them after all they've taken from us, then I got nothing. And our country is over. Don't vote party, people. Vote for who put the points on the board. Or honestly, it's game over. Fuck!
It's up to each of us to decide what we value and then use the tools we've been given to advance those values. And I believe we should use every tool at our disposal to secure our greatest gift: a government of, by, for the people, for generations to come. And I hope you agree with me, and I look forward to you joining in the work.
I'm Christopher Titus, since the Armageddon Update.
So, not a big fan of Obama, but I must say, that was a good use of a pretty decent clip. It was pretty good. Pretty good. Not a big fan of the liberals, but that was a good clip, and that was a good point to use it. That was good. I gotta give it to tight ass Titus. Fucking A, bro. Hey, can't hate on it. Can't hate on it. That was good. That was good. First off, should not have spent that fucking much on a goddamn chicken sandwich combo, but I have a chicken sandwich combo on the way. I hate that he used Obama as an example. I do too. I do too. It doesn't. Okay, so here's the thing. I hate that he used Obama for the right reasons, for the same reasons you guys do probably, but like at the same time, that doesn't make what Obama said wrong, right? Especially in the context of what he was all that he brought up and talked about. Again, not a fan or a stan of Obama. But Christopher Tight-Ass Titus, he nailed it. He really nailed it. Do you even need a hammer? Definitely makes my pee-pee pog. Like the hole, like the pee-pee hole. Like it like my dick hole. It does it